welcome to this month's edition of North Central Outdoors. I'm Nathan Karch with the TWRA, and we're going to be covering about a dozen different violations that we see out on our waterways. It's usually the most common violations that we see, and this is going to be a two-part series on covering those laws. So this month we're going to be talking about the first six, and then next month we'll cover the additional six. Totaling a dozen of those violations. They're not in any specific order of importance or anything like that, but I do want to make sure that we have an adequate amount of time to cover all 12 of them, so that's why we're splitting them up. So we're going to dive right into it. First off, an adequate amount of life jackets on board. So you'll often hear me talk about PFDs. That's what they are. They're personal flotation devices. So life jacket, PFDs, those are synonymous. In order for them to count towards your overall amount of life jackets on board, they have to be U.S. Coast Guard approved. So I would recommend that everybody on board have one that fits them, something that they're very comfortable with. The orange generic life jackets that you see pretty much at every sporting goods store, Bass Pro Academy, Cabela's, anything like that, those will suffice. Those are U.S. Coast Guard approved, and those are generally just stored on board just in case of an emergency situation. But they're not very comfortable, they're cheap, and they look pretty goofy. So more people would be more inclined to wear the life jackets if they had one that is personal to them and they know exactly where it is on board every time, and they're just familiar with it. So the best thing that I could do, I know it might be the more expensive route, is just take your whole family to a sporting goods store and let them pick out their own life jacket. And that way they're going to wear it because it's comfortable, it might be stylish and everything like that. Just make sure it's Coast Guard approved and it is readily accessible on board. If you know that you're going to be picking up certain individuals, might be not a part of your family or anything like that, make sure that you store a few more life jackets on board just to make sure that they're covered as well. A Type 4 throwable device is required by law for vessels 16 feet and over. So a Type 4 throwable is just a throw cushion, and most people recognize that is just the square cushion that you see a lot of people just sitting on. They've got like the two loops on each side, and that just allows them to throw it out to a struggling individual in an emergency situation. If you've ever tried to throw a life jacket out, it gets a lot of wind resistance and it's just very difficult to do. That's why they make these throwable devices, because they don't catch the wind and you can really toss it out there to a struggling person. So make sure that you have that. Individuals that are 12 years of age and under, so all children, they are required by law, if the vessel is moving or underway, they have to be in a U.S. Coast Guard approved life jacket at all times. The only exceptions is if you are docked, moored, or at anchor. So if you're at anchor and they want to swim or something like that without the life jacket, that's perfectly fine. Moored just means you're tied off to something, and of course just docked. But if it's underway and you can't cover any of those three, they've got to be in a life jacket at all times. We really realize that it's really hot and it's uncomfortable on 90+ degree days, and you know it's really bulky. Maneuverability is not that good, but you got to wear it. It's for your protection, and that goes back to just get them something that they're very comfortable with. And I would recommend that you as a parent or just as a brother, sister, role model, what have you, to wear your life jacket too. You're not required by law because you exceed that age requirement, but if they see you wearing it, they're more apt to probably wear it themselves. Next, we're going to go on to operating a personal watercraft without a life jacket. So you cannot do that. This is so dangerous. Just this past weekend, we had our first fatality on Old Hickory, and it was due to an individual who was not wearing a life jacket, who fell overboard on a personal watercraft and ultimately ended up drowning. So we absolutely hate to see that, and we don't want to ever have anybody experience that. So please always wear a U.S. Coast Guard approved life jacket while on a personal watercraft. And when I say a personal watercraft, that's a jet ski, a wave runner, a Sea-Doo, all of those. So you have to wear, again, the U.S. Coast Guard approved. It cannot be one of those inflatables where it's got the pull tab, or maybe it's just automatic. It can't be one of those. It can't be one of these wakeboarding competition vests that just give you some flotation. Has to be U.S. Coast Guard approved. No ski belt, life jacket. It's got to be encompassing your entire torso and upper body. So make sure that you're wearing that, and make sure that it fits you. Oftentimes we see we see these guys just coming out in like a girl small, and they can't even zip it up. They're trying everything they can do just to get the tabs latched, and that just doesn't suffice. It has to fit you. So make sure that you have one that's comfortable and fits you. We're going to talk about legal hours of operation next, whether it be for towing an individual or riding a personal watercraft. So first off, we see oftentimes that jet skis, wave runners are out past dark. And when I say dark, I mean legal sunset. So legal sunset oftentimes is not dark. You will oftentimes experience a period of 30 minutes where it's still actually pretty light outside, but the sun's already gone down. And on those clear sunny days, that's what you're going to see. But it is at legal sunset. That's what the law reads. So at legal sunset, you have to be back at your dock or putting your jet ski up on a trailer. The best recommendation I can do for y'all is finding that information out is to download an app. And there are several free apps out there. I've got one that's just sunrise and sunset times. So download an app and you'll be able to look up those times for every single day of the year. Also, if you haven't downloaded it already, TWRA On The Go, that is our free app, and we have all those times listed on there as well. So that's very, very good, beneficial information, and just download it free and you'll be good to go. So you'll know that straight from the factory that all the jet ski manufacturers, they don't have navigation lights equipped with these PWCs. So that being said, can't stay out after dark. And a lot of people oftentimes ask, well, if I put aftermarket lights on there, will that suffice? Not in the state of Tennessee, unfortunately. We're holding pretty strict to that law, and you can't have them out after dark. So make sure that you're in early. Towing without life jackets, okay? You cannot tow without some sort of personal flotation. So it's got to be able to float you and have some buoyancy. You don't have to have a U.S. Coast Guard approved life jacket on while you're being towed, but it is highly recommended. So oftentimes you'll see these wakeboarders or wake surfers, skiers, they will be in almost like a shirt-like flotation device, and those are competition vests. You get just a crazy amount of maneuverability in those vests to where you can do tricks and stuff like that, and they will float you. But if you are knocked out or something like that, God forbid, board comes up and hits you in the head, or maybe a personal watercraft comes over and hits you, or another boat, they will not float you. That's where the U.S. Coast Guard approved one comes in, to where it will. So always have some sort of flotation device on while you're being towed, tubing and stuff like that. Just got to have that on. You can't get by with not having it on, so it is required to have some sort of buoyancy on there. The ones that have the pull tabs, those don't count again. So it has to be some sort of inherently buoyant. And what I mean by inherently buoyant is as soon as it hits the water, it's going to have some buoyancy. Towing after sunset, if you're wakeboarding, wake surfing, pulling a tube, or anything like that, you cannot tow after legal sunset, and that's when those apps are going to help you to know when that time is. So you got to pull the tube in or pull all your skiers or wakeboarders in during that time. So from sunset to sunrise during that period of darkness, you cannot be under tow. And then lastly, this is our sixth most common violation, is towing without an observer or mirrors. So anytime you're participating in some sort of towing water sports that you have a rope behind you and you're towing a tube or a ski or wakeboard or what have it, you have to have an observer on board that is over the age of 12, and you have to have an 180-degree angle mirror. So the jet skis that have the mirrors on both sides, that will suffice. And then you'll see most ski boats that are equipped right in the center with a big 180-degree angle mirror. That way that you can always keep eyes on your boarder or your tube at all times. But it is highly suggested that you have both an observer and a mirror. It's not required by law. You only have to have one, but is definitely recommended. That way the operator of the vessel does not have to keep turning around and looking at their skier, wakeboarder, and they can keep their eyes in front of them and make sure, you know, the traffic is staying off of them and they can just operate in a safe manner. So that concludes this month's edition of North Central Outdoors. I hope everybody has a wonderful time out there in the water. Please wear your life jacket. They float, you don't, and please just be safe out there, and we'll see you next time.